Welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Brian Balcom. He is publisher Andrew Jones. We have you covered with another daily drop. The topic of this one is North Carolina basketball. As we're recording this, North Carolina just defeated Virginia Tech 91-59 to move to 20-11 on the regular season and 13-6 in ACC play. And today's topic is, what is Carolina's identity? 31 games into this season. Granted, the last 6 have looked a lot different than maybe the first 25 have. But AJ, you mentioned talking to Hubert Davis after the game and a specific play he referenced on what UNC's identity is at this particular moment and how they got there.
If you remember when RJ Davis dove on the floor right along the baseline in front of the Virginia Tech bench and out-fought 2 Hokies for the ball, had the presence of mind to get rid of it, Carolina went raced up the other way. Hubert singled that out. So when talking to RJ after the game about all the different things that have taken place in the last 6 games, all the reason this team is better, all the bullet points that he was running through, one of the things he offered on his own was, he said, we've found our identity. So a few minutes later, when he got asked 3 questions, a few months later, I went back to him. I said, RJ, what is your identity? And he said, we're a gritty team. We're a team that, I'm going to paraphrase, carries a much bigger lunch pail onto the floor than they ever had before. They're a club that can wear the hard hats. I'm going cliche here, if you notice. They wear the hard hats. They seek blood. They have killer instinct, all that kind of stuff. So I'm paraphrasing what he said, and he's right. The identity, it took for them to crash to the bottom of a canyon,
Mariana's Trench,
Coliseum, to kind of figure out, okay, that's not working. So credit Hubert for that, but also credit the players for being in position mentally and emotionally to change, to take giant steps forward. Some people thought that they were done. Well, I thought they were kind of done. I was like, how the hell are they going to turn this thing around? How's Hubert going to turn this thing around? The entire universe wanted him fired. A lot of people probably still do, but because some people say something publicly and then they can't retract because they don't want to admit that they're wrong. I'm not saying they're right or wrong on that. My point is, that was a lot of the steam around the program from the fan base and so on. So the coach can change the lineup, but he can coach and tell stories of pride and show them hockey fights and everything till the cows come home. But the players ultimately have to do it. They have to embrace it. They have to do it. And they then have to morph. So the identity that RJ offered on his own tonight, and we're recording this after the game, so this is running maybe Thursday, and I'm still at Castle, as you can tell. Castle calls me? Well, that's up here. What he said really struck me because I hadn't really thought about identity because they've been in such a changing mode the last 3 weeks. My thing was more changing. Okay, they played really well one game. Can they back it up the next game? Can they validate it the next game? Can they do it again? When they get different guys leading them in score, different guys getting double doubles, different guys raining threes. Now, RJ being sort of a constant in there all along. And here they are, 6 wins in a row. They're blowing people out. Winning by 32 in this building is impressive. I don't care who you are. Not a lot of teams come in here and win by 32. It's in a good team, but not many teams come in here and win by 32. And it's just sort of been a group that's accruing as they go along. And I think RJ kind of felt like, okay, we might know who we are now. Mm-hmm. So the danger in that is, do they get satisfied? I don't think so. With Duke coming in town, you can't get satisfied. I don't think that'll happen, at least for a game. But the fact that they totally recognize everything it takes in order for this team to play in a manner that they sing and celebrate in postgame. And that was the loudest locker room I've heard in a long time. And they were doing karaoke. And Seth Trimble walks out of the locker room still singing. The fact that they're where they are at this place in time and know their identity is enormous. because I believe that is their identity now, because 6 games is 6 games. It's the end of the year. In college basketball, it's not about how great you are early in the year. It's how you finish.
Mm-hmm. You don't win championships in November.
It's how you build. And, Hubert deserves credit for this team building, but so do the players, because they embraced it. And they embraced one another. The joy that they have seeing their teammates do positive things on the floor is not what it was early in the year. I'm not suggesting that they didn't like it earlier in the year or get as much satisfaction out of it. They're just so freaking connected now. They are all carrying the same mojo right now. That's what made RJ, a fifth-year guy who's been through a lot, very comfortable saying, we know our identity. He didn't say, I think we know our identity, or rather, we might know our identity. We're getting close to knowing our identity. He said, we know our identity. We know we are. And I think that's a massive, massive step. Could it have happened, or should it have happened earlier in the year? Perhaps, but it didn't. But it's happening now. So a lot of teams never know their identity. This team does that.
I totally agree. And you mentioned just the togetherness. I mean, there were times earlier this season, it looked like just a collection of individuals, and the talent was there, and we've seen it in spurts. But now it seems like a cohesive unit. And you mentioned they're all happy when one of their teammates does something well. Those are the alley-oop from Elliott to Vanilla Lubin tonight. One of the most vocal and loudest person, or I say loud, I couldn't hear through the TV, but when they showed the replay, was Jalen Washington. And so you absolutely correct when you just say this team is together. That's
what Ian said.
25, the first 25 games.
Ian said the biggest difference is togetherness. That's the second time he said that. He said it after another game a week or so ago. The bench, there was a dunk situation over here in the first half, and the whole bench stood up wanting to see it. But it goes beyond that. The identity isn't just that they like each other and they're connected. The identity is that they're dominating people on the glass. So there's a high degree of want now that was not there earlier, and Hubert will tell you that. All right? The identity is that when you have that want, you then are in the mindset and the mental ruggedness to put foot on throat, go on runs, and put teams away and put them out of their misery. I mean, they literally carved out Virginia Tech's soul tonight. All right? That they have that as who they are. They didn't do that before because they couldn't get to that point. If their season is their hands weren't even wet. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the 3-point shooting that we talked about, and the three things. You have the fact that this team, and I'm gonna look at stats one more time. I did it in the other video. I'm gonna do it again because I got a great one for you if this is correct here. They shot. Okay, so 10 of the last 12. Well, okay, if you go back to the Syracuse game, I think it's 11 of the last 12 halves they've shot 50% or better. That doesn't happen by accident.
Not a coincidence.
It doesn't happen just because your opponents stink. It happens because there's all kinds of stuff in a good place with this team. It happens and they're getting better. And it happens because they now know who they are. Okay, this is who we are. We're here and we can get to here. So let's collectively move there simultaneously. So knowing your identity doesn't always happen in sports. It doesn't always happen in organizations. It take a long time for people. It took me a long time in my life to know who the hell I was. And sometimes I'm still searching, especially when I listen to one of these videos and say, I really cussed in that video. But I think it's a very, very positive thing. Carolina fans should be very excited. They probably have an idea what the identity is too. We watch this team, we can see it, but when they say it themselves and they're talking about dirty stuff, lunch pail stuff, hard hat stuff, and we know they have the skill, you can't ask for anything more if you're a Carolina fan for this team, for where it is at this moment in time, given where it was 22 days ago.
Absolutely. And we don't know what the future holds for this team, but agreed, the complete 180 from that night in Clemson. And we mentioned last week at the Florida State game, I believe it was Vanal and Lubin, just said like they were just so far removed from that. And it looks like a different team from that night in Clemson. And because they found their identity, or they're in the position they are now. And like I said, that's all you can ask for your UNC. They were never going to beat Duke in those games leading up to it. But they put themselves in this position. They put themselves back in the conversation because they found their identity and they bought in and do things that maybe don't look the prettiest or don't show up in the box score, but the grittiness and that fight is what they needed and what they've found. And even if it wasn't what we thought would come out of that loss in Clemson, it's here and they found it.
They're going to lug nothing but good stuff into the Smith Center Saturday night. When they went to Durham, they didn't have a lot of stuff in that bag. Now they're like the Grinch, where he's got so much that poor dog is going to go over the side. I mean, they were. Remember the Tom Sawyer thing where you just had a little sack, had like 3 things in it. You know, I may be.
I do. I'm.
That's what they took. That's what they took to Cameron. Now they're the damn Grinch. They got a lot of stuff that's in that bag. That's what they're taking in there on Saturday night. And is it enough? We'll find out. But the fact that they're at this point in time, playing the way they are, the obvious stuff, the statistical stuff, and then their 5th-year guy, the guy that was in a locker room of a team that led by 15 points in a national championship game, and he was one of the main reasons they were there. When he says, we found our identity, that to me is an exclamation mark comment. And it's an exclamation mark on where this team is this moment in time. Can't ask for any more if you're a Carolina fan.
Nope, you can't. And there's a chance to cement what he said and take that next step a Saturday against Duke. I'm sure it'll be a loud environment. It always is, but with the way this team's playing,
it's going to be a zoo.
Can't ask
it's
for much
going to be
more.
A freaking zoo.
We'll both be there.
And we're going to talk. We're definitely going to talk lots of Duke stuff, Jacob. I'll do a show. I'll do a couple drops. We may get a bunch of us on to do sort of a round table just to have a discussion, but it's a must-win game. They have to win.
Yep.
They're not in the NCAA tournament yet. I don't care what any of the people on TV are saying. I might make free that piece I ran Monday with the comparisons of teams that have comparable resumes to Carolina's the last 3 years. Most of them didn't get in.
And there's one way to make sure you don't put your fate in the hands of the
And there's only one team with 1 quad 1 win that got in, and they only had 6 quad 1 losses.
Not double digits like UNC.
Yeah. So
we'll get to it on Saturday. And do not forget, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave us a comment. We do want to hear from you. You have a chance to win free THI for a year or 2 years. But for now, I'm Bryant. And from Castle Coliseum in Blacksburg, he's AJ, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.